this lesson is on the properties of addition. So there are several properties that help us to know what to do when we're dealing with numbers, and these pertain particularly to addition. So one of them is called the identity property of addition. So identity, I always remember that in any identity property, because we will have an identity property of multiplication as well, in any identity property we will begin and end with the same thing. So here, the identity property of addition, or addition property of 0, is that if I add 0 to a value, I end up with that same value. And again, it doesn't matter the order that I add the 0, 0 plus a or a plus 0. Either way, a is my final answer. So using an actual number, if I had 4 plus 0, I would end up at 4. That's called the identity property of addition. My next one is called the commutative property. The commutative always has to do with order. So there will be these properties for multiplication as well when we get to that. So the commutative property addition says you can add values in any order and it will still be the same answer. So a plus b equals b plus a, or using numbers, say 4 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 4 because both of those answers are 6. So it doesn't matter the order in which you add numbers, you get the same value. And the last property of addition that we will learn today is the associative property of addition. And associative has everything to do with grouping. So I always remember that you associate with a group of people, so associative grouping, whereas commutative has to do with order. I remember that by saying if you're commuting to work, then you're going from home to work or work to home, and it's the same distance. So the associative property says that you can group numbers in a different way. So say I have 2 plus 3 plus 7. Well, 2 plus 3 plus 7, I would add the 2 plus the 3, which would give me 5, and then 5 plus 7, which would give me 12. Now notice I'm going to write these in the same order, but now I'm going to put the parentheses around the 3 and the 7. So in this case, I would add the 3 and the 7 first, so 3 plus 7 is 10. 2 plus 10 is 12. So notice each of those is the same value. We can just group them however we would like. So we're going to use those properties in these examples to first rewrite the question and then go ahead and solve or evaluate. So for the first one, I'm rewriting 4 plus 16 plus 9 using the associative. Remember, associative has to do with grouping. So I'm going to instead group the 4 and the 16 and then leave the 9 out. So notice 4, 16, and 9 in the same order they were before, but I've grouped them differently. The reason that we might use the associative property is it's easier doing mental math to add 4 and 16 because that's a nice sum of 20 rather than adding 16 and 9. It's not difficult either, but this one is easier. For B, I have rewrite 12 plus 3 using the commutative property, and the commutative, remember, has to do with order, so we can flip it around. So this would just be 3 plus 12. And we're not asked to evaluate, so we're done. Here are a couple for you to try on your own, so press play and see how you did. For my first one, I'm using the associative property again. I'm going to leave 2 and 9 and 11 in the same order, but notice 2 and 9 are grouped in the first part, so I'm going to group 9 and 11. And my second example, 9 plus 3 using the commutative property, 3 plus 9. I'm just changing the order.